Welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing an unboxing, testing, and review of the Milescraft hinge jig. So I recently just had a new French door installed on a property I have, and I need to cut out the portion for the internal latch here. So I purchased the hinge jig set because it does have the option here to allow you to do hinges as well as the latches for the door. So this tool is pretty simple. It comes with a couple accessories. So you have two different plates here depending on the size of the door handle latch that you're putting in. So this one here allows you to go from 1 1/8 to 2 3/4. This is also 1 1/8 by 2 1/4, as well as the other is 1 inch by 2 1/4 here. When it comes to routing out the hinges, you have a variety of different options here. So you can go as small as 2.5 up to 4.5 inches. So in this bag here, you have the guide that you insert depending on the hinge size that you're using. So say you're using a 3-inch hinge, you can insert your guide here. And now when you clamp it on the door, you've got your 3-inch cutout here for your hinges. If you're going down to 3.5, you've got this option here, and it's got directional arrows here depending, so you may need to switch this around depending on which way you're attaching this to the door. So the tool actually does come with your Morse ring bit as well, and you do have the adjustment for the depth that you want to put in here, and that's what you'll use these plugs here for. It also does come with 2 fine screws if you do need to mount this to the door, but then keep in mind you will have those screw holes on the inside of the door afterwards. So because we just need to cut out the portion for the latch, we're actually going to remove this portion, and we know we're quite a bit smaller here, so we should be at the 1 inch by 2 1/4. So let's take a look here. Yeah, so we'll be using this portion here to cut out for the latch. So when it comes to mounting it, it just actually clips in and it's held in by some tension here. It slides into the groupings here that lock you in for your positioning. So we know when we're cutting, we can cut this direction or this direction depending how we want to mount it to the door. So let's get ready. We're going to insert this into the door and we're going to mark out where it's landing on the door, and then we'll attach the jig and get ready to router it out. So now that we're ready to install the latch, we know that this rounded off portion here is what's going to make contact with the strike plate. So we know when positioning this into the door, it's going to go like this. We're going to center this off, and I'm going to trace out where I'm happy with it. So now that we have the latch portion here traced out, what we'll do is when we attach the jig here, we're going to attach this like this, and we're going to cover over where we've traced out here. So we're only routering out where we need to. So now that we're ready to mount on the hinge jig, like I said, for the depth adjustment, I've already set this to where I need it. These pieces just slide in here, and when you attach them to the door now, what it's going to do is help you center the hinge, because if you used nothing on this side, you'd push too far over here. So I've lined up to the marks that I have here where I'm happy. And we're ready to go. So now that I have everything mounted here, like I said, I can faintly see my outline where I traced the latch out here, and we're ready to set up the router and take out the portion here. So for extra precaution, I did put the 2 mounting screws in just very lightly so it's holding my bracket in place from wiggling out. So we're ready to router. When it comes to setting the depth on my router, what I did was open the router's depth adjustment, move it until I'm hitting the jamb here, and then I knew I need an extra 1/8, so then I adjusted it by hand afterwards. So now they're ready to start. I'm going to insert my blade into the 1-inch cutout here, and then when I start the router, I'm just going to follow the guide around here. And then I shut the router off before I pull it back out because I don't want to hit my guide here. The nice thing with this tool is if you want to check to make sure your depth is deep enough, you can actually just pull the faceplate off. The guide will stay mounted and you can insert the latch portion. So I need to go in just a little bit more here. So I'm going to readapt my adjust and do another pass. So I'm also holding on to this plate just loosely because I don't want to bump it with the router and knock it off and overcut. So let's check our depth. And I'm gonna do a little bit more just to make this a tiny bit tighter. All right, so let's check our depth here. And that's perfect. This is perfectly sunk and the latch here fits perfectly in the guide. So I'm just gonna pop those 2 screws off on the guide here. And we'll remove our guide. So now that we've got this cut to where we want it, one of the next things you're gonna do is I'm using a self-centering bit here to make sure that I'm putting my screw holes in the correct location so they're not going in on an angle. So I just sink this in. And now I've got 2 perfectly centered screw holes. So I have to say, after using this tool for the first time, this is definitely amazing. This just made cutting out that latch portion there for that door handle extremely simple, perfect fit, and no blowout on either side of the door. So I got the first version of this, the 1226. There is an additional version that comes with the strike plate for the jamb side as well. So I didn't need that at this time, so if I do start to need that, I can just order that strike plate adjustment, which is another clip like this that mounts on top that makes you have the ability to be able to cut those strike plates out. For the $40 that this jig cost and all the adjustment abilities with the different hinge sizes as well as the different plate sizes for your deadbolts and doorknobs, I definitely have to say this is totally worth it. If you have any questions about this, leave me a comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.